With the Mazda MX-5 being the best-selling roadster of all time, this shape is quite familiar to most people. So this is my Mark 1, not being the best example there is. For someone like me, it's pretty perfect. Picked it up for less than £700. It was not roadworthy, it had no MOT, it hadn't ran in a number of years. It was picked up as a project between father and son, but I think the son was growing disinterested in the car after it being sat in the garden for several years and only slowly being made progress with. He picked it up with several issues that were preventing it from passing its MOT, and were slowly working through fixing them. One of the key ones being the suspension was gone. So they replaced it with coilover suspension, although the suspension that they've used was the cheapest end eBay coilovers. I think they're about £180 max peeling rods, and they are almost non-existent. The ride in this is very, very harsh, which I believe might have caused crack in the windscreen. Now that might have been there already, but it certainly seems like since I've been driving it that has gotten worse, and with how harsh the ride is, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a contributing factor. So the rear has been polybushed, but the bushings for the front remained in a bag for me to apply to the front. The soft top was removed from the car as the rear vinyl window had fallen out because the zip had broken, so I had to bring that home separately. But this hardtop was included. Now these hardtops are worth anywhere between £300 and £500, so to pick the whole car up for less than £700, even with cheap coilover suspension, it's basically paid for itself in parts already. So the engine ran absolutely fine when I picked it up. After a few days and some short journeys, I noticed that it was leaking water. After stopping at the lights, after getting up the temperature, there was water vapours coming out the sides of the bonnet, and quickly found that the radiator cap seals were torn. So, quick order offline, got a new cap, that sealed completely fine, stopped water leaking out of there, but it was still leaking out underneath, and with the engine running there was a very distinctive sound which led me to believe that the water pump had gone, which I believe is quite a common thing to go after these engines have sat for a while. And as I say, this car had been sat in the garden with the previous owner for a number of years. So I picked up a repair kit, came with water pump, thermostat, timing belt, tensioner, idler, and cover gaskets. So whilst I was in there, gave everything a thorough clean, flushed all of the coolant out with fresh water, and ran some coolant flush as well after everything was rebuilt. Painted everything up, new O-rings, and restored the heat shield for the exhaust manifold. So this is done using very high temp black paint. So as you can see, it's a lot more grey than black, but as is the way with VHT paint. So it's absolutely fine for the heat shield, but I will be going over the cam cover again with black, similar to the black that I've used on the cam gear cover at the front. And then I'll also be doing some detailed colouring in there, maybe red, maybe white, I'm not sure yet. But then moving on to the air intake, I'll be polishing this back and painting this, making it look fresh, because it's rather grimy at the moment. So when dropping this car for its MOT, The only thing that it actually failed on was the handbrake mechanism on this rear caliper. Now the caliper isn't seized and works absolutely fine when using the foot pedal, but the handbrake mechanism did seize and wasn't functioning. So brought it home, cleaned it down, hit it with some heat, struck it a few times with the hammer, took out the adjustment screw and found out that it was completely chewed up. So all I did was take the Dremel to it, cut the adjustment screw down, gave everything a good clear out with WD-40, and again a lot of heat to make sure that it was moving freely. Reassembled everything and that was it, absolutely fine. Grand total of about an hour and a half work, including time to check it over and investigate. 5 minutes with the Dremel, some WD-40, heat and a hammer. Fixed it absolutely fine, dropped it off the next day, passed. So after passing its MOT, it was time to start looking at the visual modifications. Starting off with the black finishing panel. This came with no badges on the back, just the holes, so filled them in, sanded it down, and painted it black. Next we got the wheels. These originally came on Tom's blue MX-5, which he's since replaced. We ran these wheels on the Micra for the Auto Solo and were intended to be for Germany. They could do with a rebalance, probably a slight refurb as well, and the tyres certainly need replacing. So this could be after the Auto Solo as well, because the shoulders are completely worn through on these, and I think they previously ran quite a bit of camber as well, so the inner shoulders are also rather worn. But these are the Toyo Proxy T1Rs. This is my first experience running these tyres, and so far I've not had any issues with them. We'll be replacing them with the TR1 Proxies, which are the successors to these, which look a lot like the Rain Sport 3s, which I run on the BMW. So hopefully it'd be the best of both worlds, because in very heavy raining conditions I probably wouldn't be driving this anyway. So I'm not that concerned about wet weather performance with these. Other things that I've done: sanded down, painted black with the wing mirrors. The windshield surround has also been painted black. As you can see, due to the crack, and there is a chip in the windscreen right there, it does need replacing, which is why when I was having trouble fitting the weather stripping rubber around the side here, it wasn't quite fitting. So I've got it in most of the way, and I've just covered the rest of it with Gorilla Tape for the time being. I didn't see the point in working to replace the rubber properly, as the entire windscreen is going to be replaced soon anyway. Also, the side repeaters, indicators, markers, whatever you want to call them, tinted slightly, so not quite as orange, not quite as bright. Whilst I was doing those, I also did the turn signals on the front, so I think they look a lot better. And after cleaning them out, sanding them down slightly, and using this paint, they've seemed to have restored really well. When I picked the car up, the interior was pretty disgusting, so took the seats out, pressure washed them, vacuumed the carpets, gave everything a Dettol wash, and it's come up pretty good. The steering wheel still needs a lot to be desired. It's not as clean as I would like it, but it took hours of scrubbing it in a washing up bowl, and the water was disgusting that came off it. So at least now I feel okay to touch it, but the leather on this side was so rough it actually hurt to drive, so I used some leather treatment to soften that up. But at some point in the future all this will be coming off. I'm going to mould some thumb grips on both sides and probably thicken up the wheel, add some decent padding, and completely re-trim it in leather. Modifications of the interior so far are just the lightning cable going through the centre console and then up into the aftermarket head unit, which was also taken out of the Micra. So this allows me to put my phone in here, which keeps it off the windscreen and doesn't cause any distractions. It allows me to keep my phone charged and listen to Spotify. Not that you can really hear anything because the speakers in this are the original speakers and they're pretty terrible, so they will be getting replaced at some point. I might add some sound treatment to the doors as well. At the moment only the driver's side electric window works. The left side did work slightly, but after inspecting it found that the metal cable from the motor had stretched and was fraying and had no tension left in it whatsoever. So at the moment I've taken the motor out, removed all the wire, pulled the window up as high as it'll go and just cable tied the brackets just to some mounting positions. So what modifications I'm going to be doing going forward? Well, first off, replacing this gaiter. This leather is disgusting, so I do have a suede one on order, so that'll be getting replaced soon. I'm also going to be replacing the shift knob, handbrake handle, maybe adding a drift button. As I mentioned, re-trimming and modelling the steering wheel. Going to be upgrading the lights behind the centre console and dash. At the moment they are green and very, very faint, so probably going to go for a colour change as well whilst I'm in there. But the contacts in here definitely need cleaning because sometimes you have to give this a tap to get the lights to show up properly. I believe there is a film or some kind of tint to the back of the dash, so I'll have to see what happens when I get there, see how I'm going to change the colour of that. I'll also be replacing these buttons. As you see, the hazard button here is faded, and I think I might go to the Jazz Performance switches instead, rather than trying to restore these. I might use the same switches for the window switches down here. Replacing the speakers, doing an upgraded sound system. These interior lights do work, but I think the switches could do with a clean, and the bulbs are a little bit dim, so I'm probably going to be replacing those. And I might even look at installing an LED strip, a very slim one, up here to actually get some top down light when the doors are open, but we'll see what happens with that. On the exterior, it's going to be painting the door handles black to match the red and black aesthetic, because there's not much else that's chrome apart from the back here, but I don't mind this too much. You've deleted the radio antenna and just put a fitting screw in there. And the paintwork obviously needs to be restored. You can see it's really not a great example at the moment, but I believe with the right products and some work I can make this look pretty good. The sills have been treated and replaced, but the arches still have a bit of rust, so I'll probably be welding a new panel on or just treating the rust areas. And you can see there's been an attempt on this side, though it's not great, so I'll probably go back over this and then I might give it a quick repaint and then polish everything up. And you also want to put some spacers on. You see the wheels are tucked in a little bit too much at the moment, so probably going to try 20mm on the rear, maybe 15 in the front, I'm not sure. So I already have a front lip to go on this car. I'm just going to go right there. Hi. The number plate is also going to be removed. I'm going to be getting a bracket and a Japanese sized number plate to go right here rather than mounting at the front. You can see the previous badge holes are still there, so they need filling in, and this needs restoring and painting. Might end up getting some TSIs, but at the moment I quite like the smoked indicators, though I'm considering swapping the side lights and the indicators around and having these as daytime running lights. Another modification that I want to do is changing the standard pop-ups for low pro or low profile headlights. There's one thing I don't want to lose is the actual function of the pop-ups, because otherwise what's the point in having a Mark 1? But I think this is just a little bit too much for me, and it's forever playing in my mind that when driving at night just how much drag these must cause. So if I can get low profile ones, which can be really expensive, so I might give it a go making my own. I'm going to be making it so that they still stay flush but will rise to about here, and the headlights will only stick up this much, and the top cover should be near enough flat. But that will still give me the option to have pop-up headlights, but with a more modern look. Other modifications we're going to be doing include a bumper cut, which is following this line, cutting all this out and installing a twin tailpipe exhaust, so tailpipe on either side, and moving this fog light into the existing tail light system. Also going to be getting a duckbill spoiler of some sort, maybe some side skirts, I'm not sure about that yet. In the engine bay I'm going to be upgrading to silicone hoses. I'm not sure on what colour. If I do the accent colours in the lettering white, I might try white silicone hoses. In the end, the top modification I'd like to do is a turbo. Probably all this will get replaced then, but I don't know how far down the line that might be. But for the time being, I'm just going to work on the easier modifications and just enjoy the car as it is. As a final form modification, I quite like the idea of giving the car a full respray and changing it to a nice blue. I have a couple of pictures which I use as inspiration of what I want this thing to look like by the time I'm finished. So who knows how long that's going to take, but I'm certainly not in a rush. I'm just going to enjoy it as I go along. So this is it. This is Juno from when I purchased up to now. So any and all modifications going forward, I'm going to be documenting and bringing you all along with me. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit.